Hillary Clinton is coming out on top in a potential face-off with Donald Trump. Kinda. It would be really close. So close. The latest ABC Washington Post poll shows a statistical tie. The up or down a couple points, I think, here. Assuming each wins their respective party's nomination, 46% of registered voters say Clinton is their choice for presidency. 43% say they want Trump in the White House. Give or take, that's a margin of error that's extremely tight. As I mentioned, the Fox News political insiders are here. Pat Caddell via satellite tonight, a former pollster for President Jimmy Carter and Fox News contributor. John Leboutiller, former Republican congressman for New York, and Doug Schoen, former pollster for President Bill Clinton and Fox News contributor. And you, our viewer, can join the conversation on our Fox News social pages. Hashtag Fox Report, and I'll get you in on the conversation. All right, Doug, I'm going to start with you. Interesting week ahead for Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely.
Is it a reset? Does she get to start over for a third time? Because, you know, she rolled out, then she had part due out on some remote island here off of Manhattan. Right. And now she's kind of like reset the button again with like a worldwide apology for that email scandal and whatever. Is this a reset for her?
Well, I think it was something of a reset last week. But judging by the polls, there was an Iowa poll that I think was put up, and a New Hampshire poll that shows her trailing, basically dead even or slightly behind in Iowa and 10 points or so behind in New Hampshire. She has to reset, Harris. She needs to get a message out about why she should be president, what she wants to do, and what is her unique argument for herself, because we saw in Britain a left-wing socialist, Jeremy Corbyn, was elected as the leader of the Labour Party. What happens in Britain is oftentimes a harbinger of what happens here. Bottom line, as I like to say, Bernie Sanders is moving, and right now he's got all the momentum, Harris.
All right, Pat, I want to go to you. Why is Bernie Sanders resonating, or is it that Hillary Clinton simply is not?
Well, I think it's both of those. But let me go back and say the Post poll, which is a heavily biased Democratic poll usually in its numbers, if they're showing 3 points, then Trump's ahead. I'll guarantee you that. Let me just say also, what's happening with the movement to Sanders is pretty constant everywhere you look at polls. He's up near 20% in South Carolina, in the state that he has not known. He was here yesterday in South Carolina, where I am. Hillary gets worse and worse by the week. These resets don't work. And I'll tell you, that memo of all the authenticity problems, that memo from the New York Times, which said that her staff put out, or whoever leaked it, that they'd done focus groups and she was going to try to apologize. She was going to be more human. And then she goes on Ellen, who slobbers all over her and whatever, and dances and whatever. You know what? The phoniness is phony. And the fact that we heard that now the email servers may not have been scrubbed at all may end up meaning that we'll now know what's going on. And remember, we still have even worse to come for her. Benghazi, and most of all, the foundation.
The Clinton
She's dying right in front of our eyes politically.
Jeff Kaiser says on Twitter, John, Hillary has had more resets than my old IBM PC.
Yeah, that's true. It's not going to happen. And one of you guys just now used the word authentic, I think it was. And what we learned so far this year is the candidates who are doing well are not the ones with the best resume, necessarily the best electoral record. It's the ones who say what they believe honestly and openly. That's why Sanders is doing well on the left. It's why Elizabeth Warren always does well, even if she's not running. People see her as authentic. Trump, for whatever you might think about Donald Trump, he is who he is. I mean, he just says it and gets away with it because it's him.
What about Carson?
Dr. Carson is totally
How do Republicans
authentic.
capitalize on what's happening inside the Democratic Party? Because a lot of the narrative, if you kind of look to the past, was that, well, you know, within the Republican Party, you've got, you know, the people who are more conservative, and then you've got the more moderates, and then you've got them kind of battling it out. But you could make the argument that that's not even as good as it is for the Democrats. They just have Hillary and everybody else.
Right.
The Republicans basically now have two candidates. Donald Trump leading. First week, he's over 30%. Ben Carson's in the low 20s. Half the Republican electorate is now voting for two people who've not spent one day.
Right, they're outsiders. They're outsiders.
Doug,
but again, how do you capitalize on this?
You don't. 3 months ago, before Trump got going, we were on this show every week talking about how the Republicans were obsessed with Hillary and the emails and the foundation instead of putting out a message about why they wanted to be president, right? Trump comes along. You don't hear any Republicans focused on Hillary anymore or on the Democrats. They're focused on what are we going to do about Trump, or what's Trump going to do? Can Trump win the nomination? He is the story in American politics, at least in the Republican
This is
field.
interesting, too. I'm seeing this on Twitter from David Wolverton. The voters want to be inspired. You know, Pat, I always hear you guys talk about in polling the intensity. We saw this in the midterm elections. Right? We saw that Republicans went to the polls in a midterm election in droves because they were intense about making changes in Washington. Do Democrats or Republicans, who has it this time?
Well, you know, right now, Bernie Sanders is sort of an outsider. He is on the economic end of what I keep saying, something out of the left hand of the trough that Trump and Carson are on the other, down at the other end, and somewhat the arena, which is they're all those who are outsiders. I watched the morning shows this morning, which is enough to give me really bad heartburn, literally. And these people keep saying, oh, Hillary still can't lose, whatever, and none of them have learned anything. They don't understand the system now. They don't understand that we are having a literal uprising against the political class. This is revolution. This is not merely let's have a little protest here in the fall. It is a change of the political order. And these candidates, and I'll tell you, that's one of the things that's interesting about Biden. He is very authentic. Anyone who saw him, I will tell you,
he's the quintessential insider.
Yeah.
That's the point I want to make.
All right, go ahead,
The point
Doug.
I want to make is he's the quintessential.
is running, Harris, well behind Hillary and Sanders in the individual states. In the head-to-head nationally, he's tied with Sanders and Hillary with a slight advantage that's dropping. I don't see Biden running unless and until he sees Hillary crashing, though given the data of the last week or so, that could well happen.
All right, real quickly before we go to break. Did Hillary apologize for the email server and all of that? Did she ever go so far in your understanding, Doug? And you know her well. You know the Clintons well. Did she ever go so far as to apologize to all the Republicans that she threw under the bus and accused of being on somewhat of a witch hunt to get her, and that's what all of this was about, and that it wasn't her own doing?
She has been parsing her explanations, joking some of the time about cleaning servers and about
Right, but
Snapchat.
what did you hear? You know
I heard a more parsed language. Frankly, she'd do a lot better staying away from trying to apologize and explain what it is she wants to do when she's president, why she's running.
Well, that'll be a cold day in hell, Doug.
Well, it may well be, Pat, but
well, and you know what? That's what you hear. That's what you hear.
Which I think is a possibility.
She just wants to.
He will shoot through those polls right now. He will gain immediately. This woman is desperately wounded.
Who are you talking about, Sanders or Biden or both?
Who are you talking about, Pat?
I'm saying Biden if he jumped in. I still think he's got a problem being an insider, but his authenticity and being honest, he's got
I don't see it that way, Pat. Just don't see it that way.
In the
All right,
Democrats.
I'm sure we'll talk about it
We
more.
will.
All right.